Now on BBC One in the West, it's time for the Sunday Politics with Robin Markwell.
Sun hat, check. Water bottle, check. This week, the Sunday Politics does Glastonbury. Now, where did I leave my tent? Yes, we're at the Glastonbury Festival where the sun is shining and I'm taking a stroll down the pier. After all, this festival is so much more than just music. It's about art installations like this one here. It's about theatre and circus and poetry, a celebration of the weird and wonderful. And it's about politics too. Coming up on the show this week, we'll be taking a look at the colourful ways in which the festival is reflecting the crisis in Westminster. And is this the greenest Glastonbury ever? Plastic bottle sales have been banned and there was a big protest over climate change. We'll be hearing from Extinction Rebellion.
And with gender politics in the spotlight, I'm off to the only venue in Glastonbury where men are banned.
One of the most political moments of this year's Glastonbury came here on Friday night with Stormzy. He wove into his set references to violent crime, to inequality, to Grenfell, to racism. He even sampled a Labour MP. Jeremy Corbyn tweeted his support for Stormzy. But is the Labour leader's popularity itself on the wane 2 years on from his barnstorming performance on that pyramid stage?
Here he is, Jeremy Corbyn!
He was the headline act so many wanted to see. Jeremy Corbyn was riding high after the 2017 election. How many politicians play to these sorts of numbers? All across the festival, the same chant rang out as younger voters rallied to the Labour cause. But if a week is a long time in politics, then 2 years is several lifetimes. At this Glastonbury, there's been little sign of gerrymania, and some of those passionate then were much less so now.
I'm a Labour member, but I haven't voted Labour in the council elections or the EU ones, so I suppose to that extent he's basically cut me off as like a potential voter. I think it's Brexit. I was quite pro-Remain, and it's not even the fact that he didn't seem to be, wasn't even the fact that he was pro-Leave, it was more just I didn't really understand where he stood on it.
He wasn't powerful enough, was he?
Yeah.
He didn't show his opinion strong enough, whether it was Leave or Remain, and to me that just seemed like, I don't know, just not something that you do as a politician.
In terms of the popularity, might not be as strong as it was 2 years ago, and it's all because of the Brexit and ahhing pretty much, I'd say.
I wish he took a stronger stance on that and listened to Labour members, most of whom are pro-EU, but he's very much kind of has his ideals and sticks to his guns on that issue.
My name's Madeleina Kay and I am the EU Supergirl. I'm not a Jeremy Corbyn fan, particularly with Brexit. He's shown his true colours. He's just completely flip-flopping. He's actually a Eurosceptic at heart.
So any loss of love for Corbyn here is over the EU. A huge anti-Brexit billboard looms large over the festival site. But ask around and you'll find some are still loyal.
Oh, Jeremy Corbyn!
He's got media very often against him, but he is popular, and I think he's got a quiet message and he's going to keep going. He's incredibly persistent, so we support Jeremy. Keep going, Jeremy, power to.
If you go and ask people what they think, they're still very much pro-Corbyn. Yes, it's under the radar, it's still there, but yes, I suppose it's dimmed a little, but it's still there.
Britain's first pant palace, all your favourite politicians.
Above all, people here seemed turned off by it all. A movement perhaps best summed up by this stall. Your favourite politician on a pair of undies.
Well, I kind of feel that they've dragged us through the mud and now we can drag them back. And, you know, they didn't really ask for my permission to do what they're doing, so I don't really feel I should seek theirs out to do what I'm doing. It's just kind of tit for tat, really.
Sales of the Labour leader's merchandise here have dipped. So are festival goers now going cool on Corbyn?
Well, we have come backstage of the Leftfield, the political heart of Glastonbury, where it says on the sign outside you are meant to recharge your activism 3 days of intense political debates take place here. I'm joined by Rosie Rogers, who's the debates curator here, Billy Bragg, master of ceremonies at the Leftfield since goodness knows when, and John Harris, Guardian writer, and the man behind the Anywhere But Westminster series of films on the internet for The Guardian too. Let's start with you, Rosie. What is the flavour of this Glastonbury, do you think, politically?
I think definitely climate's really big this year. We've had the Extinction Rebellion march yesterday with a huge crowd at the park stage. We've got no single-use plastic, reusable water bottles everyone's using, lots of biodegradable glitter. So I definitely think climate's up there on the politics.
A lot of climate, a lot of Extinction Rebellion presence here. Billy Bragg, 2 years ago, you led Jeremy Corbyn out onto this stage, hero's reception. Yeah. Everyone was wearing the T-shirt, everyone was chanting the name. This year, not so much.
Well, I think the results of the European election, it seems to me, was a rejection of nuance, the nuance around Brexit. It's all people seem to be either voting for no deal or voting for Remain, cancelling Article 50. Whereas the party, the Labour Party, because its membership are split, they're trying to deal with the aspects of nuance. So he's in a rock and a hard place, really.
And you're a Corbynist, didn't you? You rejoined because of it.
I did indeed, because I believed, and I still do believe, that members will have a say in making party policy. So as someone who wishes we can remain in the European Union, I'm looking forward to party conference this year, where the party comes out in full in favour of Article 50, revoking Article 50.
You think that will happen? You think it'll follow the Tom Watson line?
I think there will be a big push for it. I think the membership overwhelmingly want it, and if Labour is a party which policies comes up from the bottom rather than forced from the top, then I think we will come up with a Remain position. If we don't fight the next election with a Remain position, it's going to be very, very difficult to win seats, I think.
John Harris, is that likely, do you think? Labour will rally behind Remain?
I think that clearly it's where the sort of vast majority of party members are, and as Billy says, if you take Corbyn at his word, his whole sort of raison d'etre is party democracy, so there will be some sort of watershed development come the autumn. But there are no safe spaces for anybody in any of this. You know, if the Labour, emotionally, I would like the Labour Party to take the Remain position, but rationally, that will cost them support in various places, you know. The same as their current sort of a bit of this and a bit of that position costs them support. Our politics is massively complicated and chewed up and difficult, and the people who are at the sort of receiving end of all that are politicians.
I've felt for a long time that Brexit will destroy the Conservative Party. It'd be quite capable of destroying the Labour Party as well if we're not careful.
John, you don't need a fella. I mean, that's the other thing, you know. The notion that the leader of one of the two supposedly main political parties would take the stage at Glastonbury and everyone would chant his name. There is something absurd about that, and those things never last. They're all subject to the cycles of fashion. You know, the year before it was pirates, this year I'm told it was balloons, and that year it happened to be Jeremy Corbyn. And sort of good for him, but those things never last because the real world always comes back and bites you. And that's kind of where we are. Everybody knows this summer is quite odd because the autumn is looming, and we all know what happens in the autumn. You know, something hits the fan come October the 31st. And I think that's why, particularly on the Remain side, I mean, a lot of Leavers who are very worked up about Brexit still, you know, it's like, I ordered this, it's like, where's my Amazon parcel, you know? But Remainers, and I don't blame them for this at all, and I'm like this myself, given a bit of free time, they're a bit wearied by it, and they want to kind of tune out a bit. And let's be honest, you know, as to echo what Rosie said at the start, you know, looking ahead 15, 20, 30 years, the issue is climate change, it's not Brexit. So I would imagine we'll get a huge crowd for that, for the climate debate, and maybe Brexit will be full of people looking like they're chewing a wasp. But, you know, I'll be looking like I'm chewing a wasp as well.
I'll be handing the wasps out before people have a wasp.
Well, Rosie, I'm intrigued by your debate bringing Britain back together post-Brexit. I mean, is there a quick and easy answer on that one?
Absolutely not. That's why we're trying to figure it out at the Leftfield.
And interestingly, on the discussion panel that we've got about Brexit here, there are at least 2 people on that panel who think we have to leave, right? So this isn't the Remain show at all.
I was going to say, Billy, I mean, the accusation at your feet is that this is a complete echo chamber of the left.
No, I don't think so. We've got Lisa Nandy. Lisa Nandy is coming. She's pro-Brexit. I mean, we particularly don't want it to be that. We know
she's
there's a debate.
Pro-Brexit.
Yeah, she is. But I mean, I have a lot of respect for Lisa, and always have done. You know, and I thought, yeah, we should have her down to put across that point of view.
And there is no greater proof of your Big Tent politics approach, Billy, than your friendship with Boris Johnson.
Well, I think friendship is a rather a kind of broad word you're using there. I did bring him to Glastonbury. Back in those days, you got to understand, he was merely a kind of hapless buffoon. He wasn't a hapless hapless buffoon who's going to be Prime Minister. I don't think I would have brought him if I'd had any inkling, but there's no way you would have thought that guy bumbling around the set in a pale suit was going to one day be the Prime Minister.
It was all part of his master plan, I reckon.
Yeah.
All part of his cultivation of this maverick persona was his trip to Glastonbury.
Well, let's see a short clip.
Is the festival called, no, what do you say? Do you say Glastonbury or Glastonbury?
Glastonbury.
Glastonbury.
Thank you. Yeah, Glastonbury is the hunting, shooting, fishing brigade.
No, I'm surrounded by nudists now.
Boys, have you ever gone naked anywhere?
Yeah, I used to, yeah.
Where?
Yeah, at home, on the farm. This is a capitalist extravaganza. A feast of humbug and hypocrisy in which lefties like Billy Bragg pretend they're doing it for the good
When Boris says the words humbug and hypocrisy, it's time to switch off
money. These people
He's gone off the deep end. He's far off the deep end. This is Billy Bragg and Boris
100,000.
Johnson reporting from Glastonbury.
100,000.
So Bojo for PM, Rosie. What do you reckon?
I hope not. I don't know, probably. I don't know how long he's going to last, but yeah, my odds are on Mr. Johnson.
John?
Mr. Johnson.
He will, but politics now is so volatile and it moves so fast. And as I said earlier, everything is going to hit the wall come the end of October. Yeah. And he's got the central tension staring him in the face, which is that Parliament won't put up with no deal and the Conservative Party won't put up with a deal.
So climate change, all the Brexit uncertainty. Yeah. Is there any reason to be cheerful?
Yeah, England's women won 3-0 last night. They're in the semi-finals of the World Cup. How great is that? And all the people who are enraged about Brexit one way or the other, if we can just get that enraged and put it on to sorting out the schools, put it on to sorting out the environment, putting it on to sorting about the economy, this is a good time to get engaged at the moment. I'm hopeful too.
Billy Bragg, Rosie Rogers, John Harris, thanks very much indeed.
It's the drugs. That's what makes us all happy.
Shouldn't confess that on telly.
On telly? One telly, I thought I was tripping.
If there's been one big theme to this year's Glastonbury Festival, it's that of saving the planet. Plastic bottles have been banned, everyone encouraged to fill their own up from the nearest tap. What's more, climate change has been top of the agenda. On Thursday, there was a huge march organised by Extinction Rebellion. Hundreds joined it from across the festival site to show support in action against climate change. So is this the greenest Glastonbury ever? Fiona Lambden has been finding out.
As temperatures soared into the 20s, Worthy Farm and its festival goers are in need of hydration. And not surprisingly, queues have been building at all the water stations dotted around the festival.
For the first time, Glastonbury have banned the sale of single-use plastic. There's over 870 taps on site. It's all about refill and reuse.
Usually you'd be drinking out of plastic bottles, because most of the vendors would be selling them on site, but they're not selling this year. So instead I bought a £5 metal cup and you can refill it at any of the water points. There's loads of them on site, so it's easy.
It's nice that you don't have the option to buy plastic bottles as well, so everybody's avoiding it completely.
Normally pop to an ice cream van and buy a few bottles of water, as well as lemonade and that kind of thing. So this year we've decided to bring our own bottles.
Last year, more than 1 million plastic bottles were recycled at the festival, and this is where they all came.
And already it's made a huge difference. There's considerably less plastic than there was last festival. Banning the sale of single-use plastic is all well and good, but shouldn't you be doing more?
You know, we prioritise the sale of our coach tickets. They go on sale first and sell out every year, and we're increasing that year on year so that people are encouraged to take public transport. We put on free shuttle buses for our local train station. Again, so people if arrive by rail, they have free transport to the festival. And again, they don't need to queue with all the car parks. If you cycle to the festival, you have access to a green camping site.
And we know that civil disobedience.
This time last year, the climate change activists' Extinction Rebellion didn't exist. Now this movement, born in the West Country, is playing to pack tents, spreading their message across the festival. With hundreds of thousands travelling here and the mountain of tents often left behind, one of their founders worries about its impact.
I'm sure it's got a massive footprint, and it is a piece of hedonism, isn't it? It's people having a good time, but from that can come quite a narcissistic side to ourselves where we're not really looking at what we're doing, and so when individuals walk away and leave a load of mess behind. Single-use tents, I mean, how disgusting is that? So I think the festival needs to look at that and do what they can to prevent that, and also the individuals that are here.
For a festival where people were meant to be having fun, her message was a bleak one.
The big picture here is that life on Earth is being killed, and so the change really comes from political change, it comes from rebellion, it comes from people getting into active civil disobedience. So it's not necessarily about sitting here judging everybody and getting on your own case too much about your own carbon footprint. It's good to look at that with some integrity, but in all honesty, it's a massive crisis, the ecological crisis, and it has to come from political change.
A future challenge for this festival, but for now at least, even the police are sticking to the new Glastonbury rules. Organisers hope as people leave, they'll not only take their rubbish, but the festival's message.
Love the farm, leave no trace.
That was Fiona Lambden reporting. Well, we've come to perhaps the greenest part of Glastonbury Festival. These are the green fields. And we find a Green MEP here, that's Molly Scott-Cato, and Sir Dave King as well. Now, Dave, you were Chief Scientific Advisor under the governments of Blair and Brown, and a Climate Change Advisor, Climate Change Envoy, under the May and Cameron governments. Molly, you must be in your element here. We're between a recycling biogas plant and I saw someone doing a vegan bicycle-powered smoothie maker. I mean, these are your people, this is your event, isn't it?
Well, I have many great things in the patch I represent as MEP, but the Glastonbury Festival is definitely one of the ones I'm very proud of. And as you say, it's a political space as well as being a music space.
And are you surprised just how big climate change is on the agenda this year as a Glastonbury veteran?
I think we've seen a complete transformation in people's understanding of what the issues are, and also their willingness to make change. And in a way, people were sitting at home anxious about this, worried about this, and somehow Extinction Rebellion has brought that out into the open and said, yes, you're right, and we need political leadership, and that's really made things different for us as Greens.
So Dave, do you welcome this sort of change in interest in climate change? You've been banging the drum for climate change for decades, and suddenly it's centre stage.
Yes, and so we've been here before, and then it all withered away around the time of the Copenhagen COP in 2009, and then, as you're pointing out, suddenly we've got a tremendous interest. Climate change is back on the front page.
Give us an insider's account, inside the corridors of power. How easy is it to get politicians to think about climate change, let alone act?
It's never easy to get politicians to think about something that they're not familiar with. So the first thing that I had to do with Blair was to familiarise him with the challenges of climate change.
How's it been with Theresa May and David Cameron?
Now, I'm absolutely sure that both Cameron and May, during that period in government, felt that climate change was not a vote winner, right? Whereas today, we have Theresa May saying net zero emissions by 2050, climate change has become a vote winner again.
Do you welcome?
Of course, of course.
I mean, that's quite a big announcement for the government to make, isn't it?
It's quite a big announcement for the government to make, but why did it take so long would be my question. And secondly, why did they water it down by saying net zero emissions by 2050, but we're allowed to count emissions that are reduced elsewhere in the world due to British money going there? So I think it's a pity that it's emerged quite as it has. But I really strongly welcome it. The idea of net zero emissions is now embedded not only in the British government, other governments are also talking about it.
Molly Scott-Cato, I know you're a Green, but do you acknowledge for a Conservative government that was a big step in progress on the climate change agenda, wasn't it?
Well, I'm afraid that words are cheap, and I'm waiting to see the action. So you can say net zero carbon by 2050, but what's the point of that if you're supporting Heathrow expansion, if you're not investing properly in public transport, if you're making it harder for people to do the things they need to do to address this really emergency situation we're in?
But let's take the Extinction Rebellion cause, which is net zero by 2025. I mean, that's just 6 years away. So Dave, crunch the numbers on that. Is that even possible?
Well, my view is it's a wonderful aspiration, and it would be terrific if we could do it. But no, I'm afraid I don't think it's possible. I do think that we will, in order to get to net zero emissions as a country, without counting offsets overseas, we will need to plant 2 to 4 billion trees.
2 to 4 billion trees?
Yes.
That's huge. And isn't that the problem, Molly? I mean, you know, you're 2030 for the Greens,
yeah,
isn't it?
Exactly.
mean, it's pie in the sky stuff.
Well, I think that we need to really look seriously at recapturing carbon. The science is very clear on that. We put out so much carbon dioxide now, we need to change the way we use land.
How doomed are we?
I think we're in a very difficult place, but I'm going to turn that question around and say, can we manage to deal with the climate change challenge? I answer that by saying what we do on this whole planet, we human beings, over the next 10 years, what we continue doing and what we start doing will determine the future of humanity for the next 10,000 years.
Wow. So the next decade, absolutely critical. And can we turn it around in time, do you think? We've had Greta Thunberg, we've had a huge noise about it. Do you think it's enough?
This is exactly why I strongly welcome Extinction Rebellion and, of course, Greta. These two groups and individuals have completely put this back on the front pages. So I don't think when we discuss whether Extinction Rebellion were good or bad or whatever, the good they've done is because we're all talking about it. That's why you're talking to us about it.
We're here in Glastonbury. They've increased the population by 10% in one weekend. People flying in, people helicoptering in from all over the world. How green is this festival?
Well, I know Emily Eavis is very focused on making it as green as she can, but obviously there is an energy impact to doing this. But if people are coming here rather than flying to the Caribbean, then clearly that's better.
But should we even be here, Molly? If we're meant to holiday local and keep local,
well, obviously
on this massive scale,
we are holidaying locally. But I think if we look back at human history, people love coming together. They share ideas, they share opportunities. You know, they have that social time. There's nothing new about that. It's a bit like a medieval fair, but on a larger scale. But I totally agree with you. I mean, you know, I don't fly, and I don't think very many people have come here by plane. It'd be interesting to see I mean, Van Morrison's obviously an exception there, but we allow him. But no, I think there is a lot of focus here on reducing waste and also reducing energy use. And the political opportunities from this festival are amazing because people come here for the music, but they always leave with a different kind of consciousness.
Will you find time to see some music, Molly, while you're here? Is there an act you want to see? Are you a Kylie fan?
I'm hoping I can get to some Latin music and maybe even do a bit of dancing.
A bit of dancing. What about you, Sir Dave?
I think what is very important in answer to your question about Glastonbury is the movement to green the global economy is not a movement about taking pleasure out of life, right? We for goodness sake, don't suggest that that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a cleaner society, a cleaner world where the air we breathe is not killing us.
So we can still enjoy ourselves, just sustainably.
It's going to be better.
So.
It's going to be a better life, a happier life, less stress, less pollution, better connection to nature, less travel. But, you know, as a person who travels a lot, I can say that I wouldn't miss that much. So we're going to have local economies, happy people. Festivals are definitely going to be part of that.
Molly Scott Cato, Sir Dave King, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Well, the festival site is absolutely vast. A city the size of Oxford transplanted into the Somerset countryside for just one weekend. And you're pretty much free to roam where you like. However, there is one corner where men have been banned. It's called the Sisterhood stage. It's only open at night. It's run by women, an all-female technical team, an all-female lineup on the stage, and only women allowed inside. So some men have been turned away. Not everyone's happy about that.
I am a little bit gutted that I'm not going to be able to see my mate play because I don't identify as a woman or non-binary.
Could you imagine it the other way around?
Some might say
everyone will be up in arms about it, it's wrong. Hey, there you go.
So behind it, but you cannot have a feminist movement that is exclusive to women. The feminist movement has to include men.
Brilliant. It's not equality, but it's a place where you can go and not be harassed, anything like this, you know?
As a woman who's experienced traumas and sexual assault at festival before, I just think it's really important to have a safe space, and that's fun.
It's just something really amazing about being with other women. It's not about like being anti anything or pro, it's just like what it is to come together as women, and I was really struck by it was so much fun to be in the venue.
Well, I wasn't allowed inside, but Harriet Robinson was.
This is the Sisterhood, where the only entry requirement is that you're not male. It was established in 2016, partly as a response to the rise of sexual assaults of women at festivals. As you can see,
It's gaining popularity. It's a pretty busy venue here in Shangri-La. Some might say even more relevant these days after the huge Me Too movement. Well, Alice Holland is one of the organisers, and I just wanted to ask you why you felt it was so important, or why your team felt it was so important to have this at Glastonbury.
Thanks for asking. So the idea was conceived initially by the creative team at Shangri-La, Kay Dunnings and various other sort of women producers going, so have you noticed how all festival production is like run by women, but we're completely missing from the lineups, from the main stage? What if we had a members club? Ha ha ha. And then they built one and I was invited in to produce it. But the relevance and the necessity of this space, as you mentioned, you know, sexual assault at festivals, music events and just general life is a grim fact that we need to deal with better. And whilst, you know, complete separatism is not anyone's political ideal, what we really want is for the opportunity for women to take off the psychic armour that you have to put on to be hyper vigilant, hyper aware. There's a guy, is he trouble? There's a guy, is he trouble? Because you just do, because experience tells you that you have to. And what we want is the opportunity for all our sisters to come together and just take that off for a second, because once you take that off, your brain is in fight or flight mode, and suddenly your intellect opens up and you're able to make connections, to be able to find brilliant things within yourself, to be inspired. And that's what happens in there for realsies. Like, the power is incredible of women's community. It's, you know, the more time we spend with each other, the longer we live, the happier we are, the smarter we are. And so that's what's going on in here.
Obviously, men aren't allowed within the venue. What was the response like the first time, and what's it like now?
So yeah, that's right. Men are not allowed in this venue the size of a corner shop, and the festival the size of a city. You get a few different reactions on the door. Like, we have a very diverse front of house team to make sure that we're getting everyone in who's in, and generally entertaining until they go away those who aren't. But the amount of energy women have to put into defending themselves in public spaces, from the fact that it's not am I going to be groped, but if I go here I'm gonna be, and the amount of energy that you waste just defending yourself from constant assault could be better spent on uplifting ourselves, creating community, taking space, making noise, running stuff. And that's what happens in the Sisterhood. Our sisters have an opportunity to be free to play in public, to not have to watch their back constantly. And it's a real shame that is a very unusual experience, but it's a completely necessary one, and one that has very real impact on people's confidence and pleasure.
Obviously, we all want times to change, but where do you see the future of Sisterhood in 5, 10, 20 years? Do you think it'll still be here?
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope it's far bigger than any one person could possibly hope to contain or produce. The idea really is a network of sisterhoods. You know, we want to continue, we do education within here, we train up sound and light technicians. We want to expand that more, because the more of us that have power, the more culture in our own name and into our liking we can create.
Perfect. Thanks for talking to me, Alice.
Thank you.
Interestingly, a recent BBC survey showed that a third of women who attend music festivals have received unwanted sexual attention. So perhaps venues like the Sisterhood are here to stay.
And that is all we have time for from Glastonbury this weekend. Still loads more coverage of the festival coming up on the BBC, including Kylie Minogue and The Cure. Normal service resumes next week with David back in the studio. For now, though, enjoy the rest of your weekend.